I might have found another workaround, but I probably should have tested that offline because it buggered everything up.
Mm.
And we are back, everybody. All right, so getting back to the overall story of the Bandits of Golak. So let's try this again. So, what was your overall thoughts of the story of the Bandits of Golak?
Round three. All right. So overall, I think the story was fine. It's like for me when it comes to these episodes as a whole, really, it's just can you are they rewatchable for one, and for two, can you show someone an episode and they enjoy it and like be like continue to in the series. And for me, I think this episode checks off both of those boxes. Like it's entertaining enough. You could show people this and still get the point across for like the series as a whole. So I think in that regard it does its job. But like I said before, when I was comparing my Clone Wars and Rebels analogy, like to me, this is just another one of those just solid Visions episodes.
Solid Visions episode, but I gotta give it extra credit for bringing in Purge Troopers and Inquisitors. That, as
Yep.
somebody who just played through Jedi Survivor and thought it was the best Star Wars game ever made, I just was losing it. Like, oh my gosh, there's a Purge Trooper on the screen. Oh my gosh. I was watching it with my girlfriend. I was like, look at how cool that is. Look at how cool that is. And it was like, all right, settle down, you know. But yeah, it's cool when they introduce like, or they drop in some characters that from something we all know and love there. Um, but I just love the train sequence. It reminded me a lot of Indiana Jones, right? You got these characters,
Yep.
these rebels riding on these horses. It was a really good set action piece, and it was pretty violent. At one point, some guy just got like sniped in the head point blank, just like executed, like going trying to get up onto the train. I was like, damn, this thing is really no. It was cool seeing the stormtroopers like patrolling the train. Again, it reminded me of Jedi Fallen Order because in the beginning of that game, Cal is being like questioned by stormtroopers on that train on Braca. So very much like a lot of vibes I was feeling there.
Oh yeah, like you said, the for one, it had like an Indiana Jones vibe to it. That's for sure. Like when I was when I was watching it, it felt like it with that sequence. And then like I said, the violence, that's one thing that's a constant in anime as a whole. Is like most animes, unless they like intentionally do it, most animes don't scale back or like they don't shy away from violent moments. So like you said, the guy getting like sniped out like that is like an example of anime like anime style shows doing their thing. Like that's a consistent type thing you'd see in an anime. So that was cool. And then yeah, it just was really good. It was entertaining in my opinion. Like it's just a good entertaining sequence. And then of course, like the cool part about Visions in my opinion is they can include the ancillary characters like the Inquisitors, like the Purge Troopers. um you can include those type of characters, and they're nice little just callbacks to Star Wars fans, versus like you don't have to bring in Darth Vader or something. Like you can just bring in like the ancillary characters like the Purge Troopers, like the Stormtroopers, like the Inquisitors, and still get people's attention because those are familiar like visuals for Star Wars fans. Like you like connect to it and you're like, "Ooh, let me check this out more." Or let me like lock in and like really focus.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially as we'll get in as I recap kind of like the overall thoughts on Visions Volume 2 here. It does very much capture those notions, but what I liked a lot about this, it reminded me of Attack of the Clones, right? Reminded me of the character of Yoda because, the characters are in peril. Who's going to save them? What's going to happen? It's not this young Jedi. It's this very old, wizened woman that is part of the village and part of the tribe. And she just completely kicks this guy's ass. It's like, this is like Dooku and Yoda from Attack of the Clones. And I love how they brought that back. It's just like, no matter how diminutive, no matter how small, how frail you can be, you could still be powerful with the Force. The Force is my ally, right? And I am one with the Force. The Force is with me. All that. Fantastic.
Oh yeah, like that aspect of it was great. Like, and like you said, it felt kind of like the Dooku Yoda fight, even the like the Vader Obi-Wan fight to a degree until Obi-Wan got killed. Just seeing like the older, wiser character fighting presumably like the younger character, like it just it was a really cool sequence.
Oh yeah. And moving on to the next one here. We have The Pit from LFL and D-Art Shatrio. This is Lucasfilm in partner with a Japanese studio. And this one is, we talked a lot about history. We talked a lot about things in the past. This one is a direct reflection on recent history with the Black Lives Matter protest all around the United States. And this kind of drives the message home. You got terrible working conditions for these people. They're being driven to the bone. And now, it's like, whoa, okay, what can you do in Star Wars that doesn't require violence? So I love that aspect. I love the idea that they're talking about Kyber. They give you like a Solo-esque introduction, which none of the other ones do in this. It sets up the story, sets up where you're going, and gives you an idea of like, oh, this is interesting. The Kyber was bled by the Sith, and now they have to turn it back to the light. And you have this different characters, and there's a main city, and the stormtroopers are just like completely tyrannical and just like the jackboot thugs of the yesteryear and all that sort of thing. And yeah, this was a very evocative, very forward type of story. What'd you think of this one?
Yeah, I thought this was a very good episode as a whole, like you said, because of, for starters, the intro to it, like having like the little description thing and all that. I thought that was a really interesting part of the episode, just because at first when that came on, I must have like glanced down at my phone in between episodes, and it just autoplayed, and I had to make sure I was still on Visions, because I was like, wait, did it like click over to something else? Because it had the description up. But I thought that was a really cool way to like set the tone, to give us more of a like an overall feel, and like inform us more of what's going on. Because they're working with the allotted like the 17, 18, 19 minutes, whatever it is, runtime they have to deal with. So it's cool that they give us that for like a little more context on the location. And then as for like the overall like the real world implications, like like you said, the connections to like the Black Lives Matter movement and like the other real world stuff, like I thought that was cool, just because like that calls back to like George Lucas, like talking about like the political and social situations of like real life. So in his stories and the way he told things, like famously, like the whole Endor stuff is like real symbolic of Vietnam. So like it's cool just getting like that aspect of symbolism in Star Wars again to real world recent things that have gone on. And then overall, like you said, like just like seeing like some of like the everyday stuff with like the everyday people, I thought was really cool. And then of course, like you get like you said, like the tyrannical stormtroopers like doing their thing, because that's presumably how they would be in across the galaxy potentially, like because they are the bad guys.
Oh. Apparently I messed up with the narration of the Kyber crystal. That's in the next one. Sorry, my bad.
Oh,
See,
whoops. Okay, I was gonna say, I was gonna actually say, Chris, I was about to say, I was like, I think the intro was in the next one, but then you kind of convinced me it was this one, so that's why. I was like,
but like okay, Lucasfilm, I don't know, like I think that should have been better edited, or at least have those episodes separated. Why would you put two episodes with Kyber crystals right next to one another? Like, that doesn't make sense, because now people are I'm probably not the only one that's confusing those two.
Yeah, whoops.
So pretty cool. I mean, the animation, straight up anime, it looked really good, really crisp. It was neat seeing that character at the end with the Kyber crystal there. And speaking of Owl's song, that is or Owlies, I can't really pronounce it correctly. That one is from Triggerfish. And this one doesn't. Okay, so this is the one that another one I don't really enjoy that much. This one, first off, the animation just threw me off. I straight up don't like the animation. It doesn't appeal to me. It looks like it's like rag dolls talking weird. It's like the thing has a flat face, but then it's got a snout. But I mean the world itself. What I will say is like the animation of the environments was some of the most vibrant, some of the most lush stuff I've seen out of any of these. It looked amazing, but the overall character design, I was like, I couldn't care less about the character design.
Yeah, I can agree with you. Like this definitely wasn't one of my most favorite episodes. It just, like you said, the character design was strange, and I don't know. I didn't love it. I definitely didn't love it. I could say like this was just one of those episodes where I got through and was like, I don't know if that hit very well.
Yeah, and well, we'll talk more about the specific episode, but it's like it seems like Visions always ends with a downer. like the last one of Volume 1 was like something we all agreed we didn't like. Most people out there from what I've seen didn't really like that one. And I haven't seen anybody talking about this one. So it's like, okay, we're saving the worst for last. Maybe. I don't know. We're starting off with bangers, and then it just kind of fizzles out at the end. But, I mean, it's like, okay, the only thing I could equate with Star Wars, I mean, obviously you have Force users, but this one had to do with the crystals. And just like the first one, I guess for a certain degree, it comes around full circle. Where like the first one, you can see the character, her looking at the Force as artwork, but now this character in this one is looking at it as the song, which is kind of funny because that's taken right out of that. Well, I don't know if it's taken from embellished on, but Avar Kriss, who is the Marshal of Starlight Beacon in Phase 1 of the High Republic, her whole idea of the Force is like a song. So that's cool. But like the way she's in this character in our song, able to sing, and then the crystals are reacting. They're all red crystals, and they're starting to get angry, and the earth is quaking and different things. And I thought that was a cool element.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I think the best element of this episode was that sequence, like her singing and like the crystals like bleeding and stuff. Like I thought that was really cool just because to my knowledge, I don't think we really seen like someone like technically bleed a crystal visually, like in terms of any of the shows or especially not the movies, but in terms of the shows, I don't think so. It was kind of cool getting like that aspect of it put out there in that way. Like it was put out there in a unique way. So yeah, I thought that was a really cool touch to this episode.
But yeah, I'm maybe Milton will have more to say about this one, but like I don't know. I really have nothing. I mean, the one character Jedi that they were helping get the crystal, she looked cool at least. Kind of reminded me of Embo with the hat.
Oh yeah, like well, see, this is my thing with this episode. Like, I don't know. I wish they would have flipped this episode and the Spy Dancer episode to end the season that way. Because that would have been, I think, much better in terms of.
Oh yeah,
like in terms of in terms of just like momentum, you know, because like we've had like season 1 ended where it was kind of just like, okay, that was the ending, and then we end season 2 and it's like, okay, that was the ending. So it's like I wish they would kind of like reorder the episodes a little more, or look into that a little more potentially. Maybe for season 3, if they do a season 3, maybe just like maybe pay attention to the episode order a little better.
Yeah. I'm sure they have a rhyme and reason, but I just don't think it's hitting with the mass public the way they expected. And we are such a small sample size. I mean, there's probably millions of people that haven't voiced their opinions that have watched these, obviously, and maybe they can think it's a completely different thing. But to wrap up the overall discussion of Visions Volume 2, just the impact, just how I overall enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I watched it a little bit differently this time. The first volume I watched in one sitting on the day it came out. I happened to be on vacation that day, and I was like, oh, perfect. I'm going to sit there and watch all 3 in a row, or all 9 in a row, sorry. This one I watched like 2 in one night, then the next day I watched maybe 4, then the day after I watched another couple. So it was more of like, okay, let me take it in a batch at a time, kind of simmer on it for a little bit, and I was up on it, as you guys seen in the messages. I was like, oh yeah, Milton was right. This is pretty awesome in the beginning, those first couple, and it kept me wanting to watch more because they were so good, front loaded, really good.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like this season I think as a whole, like I mentioned before, I think it's a good solid season. Like you said, we enjoyed it. It's fine. It has a lot of fine to it, I think. But some of the really good moments are really really good. Like the first episode, the second episode, I believe it was the fifth episode, and then there was another one. But like I would say at least 4 of the episodes are all really good, and then the rest of them are probably just fine.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's something that I what I like about this the most of the things here, um, is that we are getting those hard hitting Star Wars kind of themes in this. And I don't know where I got this from, who I heard this from, but the coolest thing about this is it's like you strip away the canon, you strip away the timeline stuff, which is obviously so big for me. That's what I do mainly on this channel, is talk about canon books and video games and all that sort of thing. But you strip all that away. What is the deep heart of Star Wars? What are the big themes of Star Wars? And every one of these except the last one, and if I dig harder, I could probably find a theme for Al's song in there or whatever. But all these really hit on those big messages that George Lucas was introducing and really hammered home multiple times. So that I think this season was more consistent, and it had like this season might have had more layers to it than the very first volume as far as the majority of these shorts were concerned. They hit me harder as far as, oh, I see what they did there. It's and the anime. So from that perspective, I got to give it right there for that.
Oh yeah, for sure. For me, I think, now that I'm thinking about it a little more, I think the episodes I like this season. So, okay, for me, Star Wars Visions, I think the best episode overall out of both seasons is the Ninth Jedi. I think that's the quintessential Visions episode. I think that's the best one, and it's like clear cut.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the next, like if you would be ranking them, the next best few episodes would probably come from this season, I would say, or at least 2 or 3 of them would probably come from this season.
Yep.
I would say, if you're out of the top 5 episodes, probably 2 of them were from last season and probably 3 are this season. Like I think there's more episodes that go into that top tier ranking of Visions episodes than last season. But for me, I think the Ninth Jedi still hits the best. But yeah, I mean, overall, like entertainment wise and like stuff that I really enjoyed and what I really reacted to and really hit with me the best, I think the second episode of this season is my second favorite Visions episode, just because I don't know, it was entertaining. It had those Star Wars tropes and it was kind of creepy and yeah, I just really love that one.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, I understand why they introduced the Japanese having their entire volume of Visions for Volume 1, because say what you will, I think George Lucas got most of his inspiration for Space Wizards and Samurai from Japan. So it's cool to have seen Volume 1 pay so much homage to the Far East and getting all those cool spiritual significance. But there's so much other great studios out there in the world that have their own designs, that have their own ideas. So I love how Volume 2 traveled around the world. South America, you had Europe, you had Africa, you had Asia, right? You had like majority of the continents all these major countries had their time to shine from all these different regions of the world, and they all brought their such distinct animation, whether it be 2D, CGI, a little bit of the both. And for me, I like the variety. I like the sheer amount of variety where it's like everything was anime for Volume 1. So if you weren't a fan of anime, like I've seen a lot of people that I know are just like, hey, I'm not really a big fan of anime, so I didn't really enjoy this. Whereas I can recommend this and be like, hey, well, there's plenty of other animation styles, and maybe you get introduced to animation in general by watching this. I don't know. Maybe watch this and say, hey, I like Star Wars animation. Oh, there's this thing called the Clone Wars I heard about. Maybe I should start watching that. And the next thing you know, this could be an entrance point for a lot of people for Star Wars. You know?
Oh yeah, for sure. They might just stumble upon this second season and get watching it and be like, oh, this is interesting, and then get into the other Star Wars properties that are on Disney Plus for like animation, and just go down the rabbit hole of getting into Star Wars.
Oh yeah. So, I mean, I can't really give Visions a score out of 10 because it's just impossible when you have 9 different shorts. But I will say I recommend it. I give it my recommendation. Visions to me is a series that is an interesting watch for me because I took notes. Yes, I took notes on this. I had certain little bullet points I wanted to cover in each one of the shorts generally. But it wasn't something where I was waiting on the edge of my seat, bated breath, like, oh gosh, like I got to know this connection. Like it's more like I can sit back and just enjoy for the storytelling and for the animation, not plot points and points on a timeline. So I like from that angle, just getting to enjoy it and sitting back and react.
Oh yeah, for sure. I can echo your same sentiments. Like I think entertaining. It's enjoyable. I'd recommend it as well. Like you said, it's a little too hard to rate. And like I said, my biggest comparison was this season is more like Clone Wars, where it's like a constant B, and then season 1 is more like Rebels, where you have a lot of highs and a lot of lows. And that's how I would kind of like surmise both of these seasons.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Let's see, Aaron Dale, I think I've enjoyed this season more than the first one. I really enjoyed seeing how each studio from around the world put their style and influences from their culture into each episode. Yeah, it's exactly my sentiment as well. This was awesome. This was something that I want to go back to. And as I was watching Volume 1, I was like, or Volume 2, I was like, I want to go back and watch Volume 1 again now. Like, this is just neat ideas just seeing brought to the screen and the influence of these people. So there, yeah, I mean, yes, so Darker guys, I was saying I was going to say I would like to see season 3 be Japan focused again, and if we get to season 4, have it be international again. Yeah, and if we get season 3 to be Japan focused, like they better have the Ninth Jedi again, because that was awesome. And I was hoping when they announced that there was a Japanese studio that this would be like the continuation of that, but that's okay. We can get there eventually. There's so many resources at Lucasfilm and so many, things spinning over there that eventually we'll get there. Maybe before I die, we'll see that continue.
Maybe they just go and announce like, hey, we're gonna just give that studio a mini season, like 6 episodes about the ninth, like continuing that Ninth Jedi story.
Oh, that'd be really cool. Yeah, just seeing complete spin-offs out of Visions, and then having like Visions as the title. It'd be like Star Wars Visions, the Ninth Jedi, or Star Wars Visions, Screecher's Reach, or something like that. And
because these could be considered all backdoor pilots to mini seasons. If you think about it.
Yeah, the way they start, they can either end or begin something the way they go. You could take it up to your imagination, or they could literally paint the picture for us.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many options they could do with this. I'm excited to see where they go. I really am.
Oh yeah. We're excited to see and hear what you guys have to say about about Visions Volume 2. Yeah, so let us know in the comment section. Let us know there on the interwebs, on Twitter. You can follow Ben at Real Ben Maynard, me at Chris at Starrapter, and Milton at Milton Weber 7. Ben, what can the people see you talking about on Twitter this week?
Yeah, I mean, probably this weekend you'll see me posting about the my favorite Clone Wars series. I had some people message me and be like, "What? That's your favorite?" But my favorite Clone Wars series by Genndy Tartakovsky. I'm going to be watching that probably over this weekend and in the coming days, just because I was like, man, I haven't watched that in a while. And then I saw an interview actually with Genndy. We had missed our opening like this week in Star Wars, but for my week in Star Wars, I actually saw Genndy got interviewed by like a one of the bigger like animation. I think it was Nerdist actually, but anyways, he got interviewed and like it was like fan submitted questions to Genndy, like all about his anime stuff. And there was a segment in there he talked for like a minute or 2 minutes straight about him animating Anakin and like the way Anakin moved in the Clone Wars series and like the background, the ships, like just everything. And it was cool just hearing him like talk about the animation style and stuff and what they did with Star Wars. So that kind of like got me in the mood, and I'm like, I'm gonna watch that series again because, like I said, that's my favorite Star Wars Clone Wars series. I love it so much. So I'll be watching that over the coming days, and then I'm just gonna be continuing to work on my fitness stuff, and pretty much until next Friday.
Yeah, you'll
Our next
be
podcast.
I'll be playing Jedi Survivor. I'm still trying to unlock like every collectible in the game. My whole idea is I'm gonna collect every collectible in the game. I'm gonna have like every skill point basically unlocked in every tree, and then I'm gonna re-roll New Game Plus, put it on maybe a higher difficulty, and then just worry about playing through the story again at a harder difficulty and using maybe the cross guard stance and the double bladed stance, because right now I'm solely working on the dual bladed stance as well as the blaster stance. So I've gotten pretty good at those, but I'm ready to throw it in the ring to relearn a different kind of technique. So yeah, I'm getting pretty overpowered in my Jedi Knight playthrough, so I think I might have to jump up the level up a little bit. And but yeah, that's where I am. I'm currently running around Jeddah, trying not to get killed by giant scorpion things. So there you go.
Nice. Sounds like a good way to spend your weekend.
That and becoming a Star Wars historian as I'm slowly working my way through the Star Wars Timelines book. I currently am in year 21 BBY. And if you're wondering what the heck is he talking about, that's basically smack dab in the middle of the Clone Wars. So yeah, I'm working my way through that book, and it is basically the most hardcore Star Wars reference book you'll ever see. I'll be talking about it on the channel. I'll be reviewing it as I eventually get through it. It's a very thick, very heavy book, so don't expect that anytime soon. But my idea is like it's like studying for a test. Like I'll do like 3 or 4 pages a day until ever it takes me to get through. I might spend like a good hour or two tomorrow after work, since I'll have a large window of time. But it's been something I've been like, it's literally a coffee table book. Like I've been going eating breakfast, and then I have the book open next to me as I'm eating my cereal, just like, ooh, what's the malevolence? Ooh, Grievous had this in 21 BBY, stuff like that.
Oh yeah, that's a really cool book. Like you said, it's a cool reference book, and I might end up picking that up myself actually, just because it's cool that you get to see the whole timeline. You get all kinds of little tidbits and facts that you may have not have heard about. So like that's pretty neat. So yeah, I'm actually gonna look into that book as well.
Yeah.
And then actually to throw out there too, another little tidbit from my, I guess, weekend in Star Wars at this point, will be tomorrow. I get my next Audible credit, so I'm going to get the second Thrawn book, the Dark Force Rising audiobook, because they have they did the Thrawn trilogy, the original trilogy from the 90s. They did the 20th anniversary edition.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fully Mark Thompson doing all the stuff, and like it's great. So I get my next Audible credit tomorrow, and I'm going to be starting Dark Force Rising probably tomorrow when I work out.
Yeah, one of the people I work with at work is like, yeah, I just read through all the Thrawn trilogy recently, and I feel like I'm getting spoiled for the Mandalorian. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly why I haven't started reading those again, because I'm like, I kind of want to have ignorance is bliss going into Ahsoka and whenever the movie is. Like, I don't want to know the storylines too heavily in the back of my mind, because then I'm gonna be critical of how Mando goes, and I just want to experience it like how it is in the show right now.
Well, you see, that's the thing. That's the thing about the Thrawn trilogy is so like Dave, for example. I mean, heck, we might talk about the Dave stuff next week, but like Dave did an interview with Empire Online, and he's taking like heavy influence from the Thrawn trilogy for all of
Whoa.
this Mando universe stuff. Like he literally talked about how like um he literally used the word continuity basically. Like he's viewing like he transitioning like that Thrawn trilogy kind of into this Mando stuff and his movie. And like so getting that sort of vibe, and then Dave basically like confirmed like Thrawn is a straight up villain, like how he was in the Heir to the Empire trilogy. Like
Good.
he's taking that iteration of Thrawn basically and making like the Heir to the Empire Thrawn is probably like kind of the version we're gonna be getting in live action by the sounds of it. So like, me listening to these Thrawn trilogy books, like I love them, they're classics, but like you said, you heard one of your friends say, like, it does kind of feel like it is spoiling certain aspects to things in the Mandoverse, because it's like I can see where Filoni, in fact, Filoni especially, I can see where they're getting inspiration from those books. And we've said it from day one when they first mentioned Thrawn in season 2, like they're rough adapting this trilogy into all of this stuff, and like that's exactly the vibes I'm getting. Like I can see so many of these characters, like from the first book, like there's a character that reminds me a lot of Grief Karga, for example.
Oh, is that
And like,
Talon Card?
yep, Talon Card. Yep, I was gonna say Talon Card. That is Grief Karga to a T, basically.
Okay.
Like I could see so many of these aspects flipped around, and yeah, it makes you wonder where they're heading with all of this stuff.
Yeah.
That's for sure. And it's just like, like I said, well, I don't know how much. Man, we might be getting spoiled a lot reading these original Thrawn books.
Yeah, it's funny because I know they have the re-release of what is it, Dawn of the Jedi coming out, so I'm very curious to see if the director pulls a lot from those books and those early comic books, 25,000 years in the past. So we'll see. I have a feeling that's going to be a lot looser than it is when it comes to Filoni pulling from. Because from what I hear, Dawn of the Jedi is one of the worst Star Wars EU books. I'm gonna just read it.
I don't even remember it much.
Like people said, it was horrible because it was supposed to tie into the comic books, and then they never ended up continuing the comic books, so it just kind of like floundered. And then I think it was one of the last things that came. Well, the reason why is like I think it came out in 2014 or 2013, so it was like literally like that was one of the last things until the wipe of the Legends. So they're like, nope, we're not doing any more in the past because we have to revamp everything. And I think just the way that they weren't able to finish the story also left a sour taste in people's mouths.
Yeah, I honestly don't even remember that book.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of books, I have my review of Path of Vengeance on the channel right now. It's the last book in Phase 2 of the High Republic. I will say that Phase 2 of the High Republic finished very strong. I was not a very big fan of Wave 1 of Phase 2. It was like pretty slow for me, but then Wave 2 picked up the slack and really drove the characters into very interesting situations that led to some really cool resolving moments there at the end of it.
Nice.
Well, it was a little bit of a shorter one, but we did get a little bit late of a start. We're going to have Milton with us back next week. He'll give us his first his final thoughts on Visions Volume 2 as well, and we're gonna see if anything else comes out of Lucasfilm. Whether it does or not, we will be here same place a little bit earlier at 9:00 p.m. Eastern time on youtube.com/Starrapter. We're also available on any podcast streaming network of your choice, so go ahead, give us a download, and if it's on any platform that has an option to rate us, such as Spotify, please go ahead and give us 5 stars. It'll allow us to be more visible to our audiences out there that want to listen to a cool Star Wars podcast. Well, for Dark Nerdy Gonzo, for Aaron Daly, for Ben, for Milton, for Chris, aka Starrapter, this was Outer Rim Transmission number 106. Thanks for watching. May the Force be with you always. End transmission. Have a good night, everybody.